that. That's not his fault. He did an excellent job.
He did what he could with the script. But honestly, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It does seem, this is kind of a slippery slope, but the fact that he was announced in casting so soon after his passing.
This movie was in development for
a while. It was in development, but it just gets me worried that I don't want to put this on a studio, but that they're capitalizing on
his death.
Because Hugh Hefner's he wasn't in the news before his passing, so this might be reactionary to...
oh, look, we can make money.
Exactly. So, who knows? This could be a good movie, but the idea of Brett Ratner being attached gives me some apprehension.
Yeah, same here.
Moving into our next topic, not exactly a smooth transition, but Jared Leto, DCEU, stuff like that. We have some new Justice League character posters, along with the news that there's a new trailer dropping this Sunday. It'll be interesting to see what they show, considering they've showed a lot already. I think they showed
too much.
They've had 3 trailers now, and all of them are about 3.5 minutes, which are pretty long for trailers. So we're just going to go through the character posters. There's one for each member of the Justice League. Obviously excluding Superman because they're hopefully saving his reveal.
His symbol's right there.
His symbol is at the top, so that does kind of give it away. But
what are they doing?
We all know ahead of time he's coming back.
know.
But it seems like they're saving his actual appearance for the movie. Again, there is a trailer Sunday.
Oh, no. Knowing them, they're going to totally show him in the trailer.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah. All right. So we're just going to go through them. We'll go one by one. So first off with the Batman one.
Looks pretty cool.
What's very interesting is the contrast on his cape.
Yeah, it's got some red in there.
You know, the whole thing about the DCEU is that they were so dark for so long. And after the success of Wonder Woman, and you saw that, it was
excellent.
It wasn't as dark of a movie.
No, it was beautifully filmed.
Yeah, and so I think they're finally transitioning more into a lighter tone, not as light as Marvel, but they're having some fun with these movies, which they should.
It's important for a comic book movie.
Yeah.
Comic books aren't that's not fair. Like comic books can be taken seriously, but for the people who are going to see these movies, like as I said before, the popcorn munchers, they want to see explosions and fun.
They can have some fun with it. So Batman's character poster looks very good compared to what we've seen in the past. It's not just a black suit.
Profile.
It's almost like a navy blue classic Batman. Moving on to Wonder Woman, obviously the breakout star. Basically, they're putting her in the driver's seat to lead the DCEU. And again, with the colors, I knew in Wonder Woman, her suit, while you could see different colors, it was kind of the same contrast. This one, very bright red, very bright blue. The lasso shines, throwing up the X with gauntlets. And so I think the Wonder Woman poster is fantastic.
She looks good, yep.
Just moving on now to the Flash. Flash looks pretty good.
He does look very good.
I like the lightning effect, like all over him.
His suit's cool. I like his suit.
Yeah, I know that there's a backstory with like the suit is, I wouldn't call it practical, I wouldn't call it realistic, but something about he designed it with like NASA technology, so you can see like that they are trying to add big quotes here, but an element of realism to the Flash, even though it's off. It's a nice transition from the TV show suit, which is just like cloth. It's a cloth like leather. And
I mean, TV budget.
It's TV budget, but at the same time, like they can't just do the same thing. And the colors on this look great. The yellow really pops. Moving on now to Aquaman. Aquaman's, I like it. It's somewhat. It's all right. I wouldn't rank it at the top for these character posters. Aquaman,
got the scales there.
Yeah, Aquaman is probably the only reason why I'm excited to see Justice League.
You didn't see Wonder Woman.
Well, yeah, but just this new character. Because Jason Momoa is one of my favorite actors. Obviously, Khal Drogo in Season 1 of Game of Thrones. He's in other movies, Road to Paloma, or some movie where he starred in. But the fact that he has this role and he's having fun with it. He seems... I remember...
Yeah, you can't do Aquaman seriously. It's Aquaman.
Yeah, I remember at... was it Comic-Con, I believe, where the panel was gathered on the stage, and Jason Momoa came through the crowd, like charging with his Aquaman.
That's perfect.
With his
it's such a contrast from Batman vs Superman when he's swimming through the water, looking all mean.
Even though like he really didn't do anything, they just showed like Aquaman has long hair. Look at that. But this character poster gets me excited. Not as much as I've seen in the past. I really like the shot with all 4 of them standing. It at like the police station or something? I don't think it's going to be the Hall of Justice just yet. But that looks really cool. This one, compared to the others, it looks more of a drawing. I'm going to be honest. Like his face isn't as defined as, say, Wonder Woman's was. But I do think it's still a good poster. Obviously, the green pops.
Yep.
And moving on to the final one, I believe. With Cyborg. I'm going to say unanimously the worst of these character posters.
It doesn't look good.
Because...
It's very CG heavy. And, I mean, it's Cyborg, so you're going to have CG.
Right, it's in the name.
But it just looks like his face is floating there.
There's just something about the Cyborg poster. Well, not just Cyborg poster, but just this character that...
Oh, Cyborg's a good character.
It's a good character, but it doesn't seem like they're ever going to get it right, because as much special effects as you add, it's literally half a face on like a robotic body.
Well, you got to let his performance go through. His performance might get rid of that.
Just the design of it just looks very odd, and it, like you said, it does look like just a floating head.
I mean, no, it looks like Cyborg. I just think the CGI is too fake. Like, you could definitely make that metal suit look more real.
Yeah, for sure. So just to go back through, did you have a specific favorite one? Because I'm going to be honest, and I'm just going to go with Wonder Woman, because the color, I think, really pops.
Yeah.
And I think they did a fantastic job of just showcasing her character in this poster.
They're going to push her because she's leading it. She's leading the DCU. Absolutely. Her movie was great. I would not be surprised if she gets more movies than even Ben Affleck's Batman because of her critical acclaim. But I think my favorite poster is the Batman poster, honestly. Yeah. It looks straight out of the comic books.
Yeah, with the classic pose.
Yeah, he's got that nice gleam on his cape, and like the rubber suit is not that weird bulletproof suit he was wearing in Batman vs. Superman.
For sure.
It's funny how they're like doing this DCEU with like the Batman vs. Superman story. What's it called?
Oh, The Dark Knight Returns?
Yeah, The Dark Knight Returns is like later on, and now they're bringing him like back into like, oh, now I'm happy again-ish. So... But it's obviously because people were complaining how dark it was.
Right.
But I'm happy to see it regardless.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the tag they have on the movie, All In. I think it's very interesting because while it's all the Justice League members together, like hence the All In, it's also kind of transcends the movie and kind of on the DCEU because it seems like with this
they're
movie,
all in.
They're really all in.
They're pushing all the chips
because I remember I was watching ETC with Ricky and Elliot a little bit ago, and it was like it looks like they spent every last dime on this movie.
It
better
looks be good.
Like the CGI doesn't look perfect yet, but some of the set pieces they have in the trailers look like they just cost dumb money. It just looks
and that's
ridiculous.
An issue with some of these movies. You pump too much money in it, and you don't need to.
And some of the characters they have in this movie, I think the Lex Luthor scene is cut, but the fact that they have, like, Commissioner Gordon with J.K. Simmons, he's not a cheap actor to get. Like, yes, it's good that they're really putting all their chips on the table, but what happens if it fails? What happens when it fails?
Make money. They'll still make money.
It'll still make money, but it's at this point now with the DCEU that people are so sick of movies being rotten. And credit, Wonder Woman is the exception. I love it, but it's this idea that you can't just have one... We don't want it to come to a time where Wonder Woman's called the outlier of the DCEU.
Yeah, that's not
where
fair.
We want these movies to be
on
certified fresh.
Marvel.
We want to see them be good, and just with all the chips they're putting on the table for Justice League, I really hope
it's at least fresh.
At least something positive comes from it, even if it's not a perfect movie.
I'm sure Wonder Woman's Gal Gadot's performance will be like, she's so great.
I want to hear about people being like, well, that movie, it was all right, but I'm really excited to see Aquaman now. Jason Momoa looked great. I want to hear stuff like that. I don't want my thoughts that Ben Affleck is going to leave the DCEU confirmed by this movie. I do think they will be, but I'm going into this movie with some hopes considering how much effort they're putting into this. That will conclude our topic on the Justice League posters. And I think that will transition perfect into our review of Ex Machina. Awesome. Now, just real quick, we're going to do a spoiler section and a no spoiler section. Obviously, going to start with the no spoilers. This movie came out on April 10th, 2015. So it has been out for a while, over 2 years now. So if you haven't seen it, still understandable because it wasn't a movie that... It didn't make a ton in theaters, $36.9 million. Not terrible on a $15 million budget.
Very small budget.
Yeah, very small budget. So it did make its money back and more. But it wasn't a movie I would necessarily expect people to see in theaters. I heard about it through reviews and word of mouth, and I bought it on Blu-ray, sat down and watched it roughly around the time it came out on Blu-ray, and I was blown away. This is one of my favorite movies ever. Like, I know it sounds silly because obviously it's still a new movie and you can't forget the classics, but there hasn't been a lot of movies that have had such a message that like resonated with me as much as Ex Machina. Now, before we get into our no spoilers review, I'm just going to read the synopsis just in case people are unfamiliar with it, and maybe if our no spoilers section makes you want to see the movie, that would be perfect because, like I said, it's a movie that I think a lot of people should see because it's very powerful. So the synopsis goes like this. Caleb Smith, who works a job for Blue Book. Blue Book is their Google, basically, in this movie, wins a contest to spend a week with the CEO of Blue Book, Nathan Bateman. Upon his arrival, Caleb realizes his purpose is bigger than originally perceived, as Nathan tasks him with giving him a tuning test to his artificial intelligence, Ava. However, when Ava reveals some shocking information, Caleb's life is changed forever. Now, Mike, what were your initial thoughts on this movie?
I was mesmerized by the performances.
For sure.
It felt like a stage play, just because of how claustrophobic sometimes with the characters.
And how limited the cast was.
Yeah,
it was essentially small. 3 people.
And it was fascinating. And usually I'm pretty good with like figuring out where a movie's going to go. And this movie surprised me twice. It is one of the most twistiest movies I've ever seen. And I was just like, it was just like something like so different that absolutely. I was happy I was able to experience it.
Yeah, for sure. I know this was Mike's first time seeing it. When did you?
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
I watched it. Yeah.
I just actually rewatched it about an hour ago because I had seen it before, but I wanted to revamp what I already knew and just remember some scenes. And there were some scenes that I forgot, and they were very powerful when I watched them again. This movie, just to go through the cast. Essentially 3 people. There are some extras here and there, but their screen time is very limited. We have Alicia Vikander as Ava. You'll recognize her as the new Tomb Raider. Domhnall Gleeson as Caleb Smith. And Oscar Isaac as Nathan Bateman. Now, part of the reason I wanted to see this movie in the first place was this idea of what's his name?
General Hux?
General Hux and Poe Dameron in a movie other than Star Wars. Yeah. So I thought it was very interesting.
It's funny how they lump those actors together.
Yeah, and this came out before Star Wars, actually, months before. And so I thought it was very interesting to see like 2 actors that I know from another movie interact, but
who aren't big characters in the movie. They're supporting characters in Star Wars.
Domhnall Gleeson was great in this movie, but the breakout performance is absolutely Oscar Isaac. Yeah. I know Mike has a lot to say about him, but I will just say, Oscar Isaac in this movie, if you recognize him as Poe Dameron, you will not recognize him in this movie. He doesn't even change his physical appearance that much. He has a beard and a shaved head rather than the curly hair that Poe Dameron has. But I knew it was Oscar Isaac, but I couldn't even recognize him. The amount of work he put into this character is insanity. Now I'm going to transition it over to Mike to give his thoughts on Oscar Isaac's performance.
Do we want spoilers yet or not?
We'll keep it spoiler free for a little bit.
He scared me.
Yeah.
Every single scene he's in, even at the beginning where you're not supposed to have too much tension yet, he's just full of tension.
Very deliberate.
He's scary to be around. Like
unsettling.
He's unsettling. He seems so untrustable, yet Caleb still trusts him. He's like, okay, he's rich, whatever. But it's just like the way he like moves around. Like he's so casual with the things he's saying, or sometimes horrific what he's saying. And it's just like one of the greatest like sci-fi performances that aren't like a sci-fi character I've seen.
Yeah, like he'll even just in his conversation where it's not a spoiler, but Caleb goes to call on the phone. He's like, "Who are you gonna call?" And at first you're like you're kind of unsettled because you didn't realize he was even in the scene. He was just kind of in like a darkly lit area, and so you're just kind of unsettled that he's like really like creeping on Domhnall Gleeson's character. But then he's like, "Nah, it's Ghostbusters." You ever seen the movie? And so it's like it's really unsettling with this guy who's supposed to be he is a creep and he is very unsettling as a character, but he always roots himself back into humanity, and that's what makes him so scary. He almost reminds me of in 10 Cloverfield Lane. What was his name again?
I'll look it up.
His performance, anyways.
John Goodman's performance?
John Goodman's performance. There's a scene in that movie when they're playing, is it charades, I believe?
Oh, they're playing charades, something like
charades,
that.
But it's like verbal. And so they're trying to describe someone, and he keeps going like, I'm watching you when you're sleeping, like I'm watching you, I'm watching you, I'm watching you. And then you're like so unsettled. And he's like, no, it's Santa Claus. Like, jeez. And so then you're rooted back, but at the same time, what he's saying has so much weight. And so just little things like that with Oscar Isaac's performance, just his tone